We are going to prioritize Nana Eleanor's birthday, not yours, my daughter Madison announced in front of the whole family. I smiled at her as if she had just offered me a cup of tea. Understood, sweetie. In that moment, the girl I once carried in my arms during her feverish nights had just publicly humiliated me, not knowing that I own a Napa Valley estate valued at $7 million. When she saw the photos of my birthday and recognized who was celebrating with me, she gasped as if someone had punched her in the stomach. Where are you watching us from today? Leave your location in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. But to understand how we got here, I have to tell you the entire story from the beginning. My name is Carol Ann Richmond. I'm 54. And until a week ago, I thought my biggest problem in life was deciding what to cook for Sunday dinner. How naive I was. Everything began last Sunday in the kitchen of my house in Charleston, South Carolina. I was preparing my famous slow-roasted pot roast for the family lunch when Madison arrived with her husband, Ryan, and my 4-year-old grandson, Leo. It was our weekly ritual, the only moment when the entire family gathered without the distractions of work and school. "Mom, we need to talk," Madison said, sitting down at the kitchen table, that same table where she had done her math homework when she was 8. Ryan stood by the window, avoiding my gaze in that particular way he had perfected since they married 5 years ago. "Sure, sweetie." "What's going on?" I asked while stirring the gravy. Deep down, I thought, here comes something I won't like. My daughter only used a tone when she was about to tell me something she knew would annoy me. Madison exchanged a look with Ryan before continuing. "It's about the birthdays. Yours is January 15th and Nana Eleanor's is the 20th. Ah, yes, the birthday of my dear mother-in-law, the woman who for 5 years had treated me as if I were a housekeeper who had accidentally married her precious son." I turned toward them with my best diplomatic smile. "And what's the problem, Madison?" "Well," she hesitated, fiddling with her wedding ring. "Ryan and I have been talking, and this year is going to be special for Nana. She's turning 75, and the whole family is coming from New York to celebrate." "That's wonderful," I said, though I thought, and here comes the but. "So," Madison continued, squaring her shoulders as if bracing for the final blow, "we are going to prioritize my mother-in-law's birthday, not yours." The silence that followed was so thick I could have cut it with the knife I was holding. Leo, bless his heart, kept playing with his toy cars on the floor, oblivious to the bomb his mother had just detonated in my kitchen. "Understood," I told her with a smile so sweet it could have caused diabetes, because if I'd learned anything in my 54 years, it was that the best revenge is planned in silence. Ryan finally spoke. "Carol Ann, it's not that your birthday isn't important." "Of course not," I interrupted, serving the pot roast onto the plates as if nothing had happened. "Nana Eleanor deserves a special celebration. After all, it's not every day a woman turns 75 and has the blessing of such a thoughtful daughter-in-law." Madison looked at me with surprise. She clearly expected tears, reproaches, maybe a little maternal drama. What she didn't know was that her mother had learned to hold her cards better than a professional poker player. "You're really not bothered?" she asked in that little girl voice she used when she knew she had done something wrong. "Not at all, sweetie. I'm sure it will be a marvelous celebration." What I didn't tell them was that I was also planning a celebration, one that would leave their jaws on the floor when they found out who Carol Ann Richmond really was. Because you see, there are some things about me that my own family never bothered to ask. After they left, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine and my phone. It was time to make some calls I'd been putting off for years. The first was to my lawyer, Mr. David Harrison, an elegant 60-year-old man who had handled all my legal affairs since I inherited what Madison never knew existed. "Carol Ann, dear, what can I do for you?" His voice on the phone sounded warm, fatherly. "David, it's time for my family to know the truth. I want to host my birthday at the estate." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Are you sure? Once they know about the Richmond estate—" "I know, but it's time. My daughter just showed me exactly how little value I have in her life. I think it's time she knows who her mother truly is." I hung up and went to my bedroom, to that safe hidden behind the painting of my late husband, Anthony. Inside were all the documents that had changed my life 8 years ago when Aunt Vivian died and left me something I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams. Aunt Vivian. Even now, years after her death, I smiled thinking of her. My mother's older sister, who had gone to California at 20 to seek adventure and never returned. The family had always murmured that she had married money, but no one really knew what had become of her, until her lawyer showed up at my door in 2017 with news that changed everything. I took out the photos of the Richmond estate and spread them on my bed. 18 rooms, 12 bathrooms, gardens stretching over 15 acres, and a Napa Valley view that took your breath away. Aunt Vivian had been more than just savvy. She had married a wealthy wine magnate, lived like a queen for 40 years, and when he died, everything passed to her. And when she died childless, everything passed to me, but I had kept a secret like gold. Why? Because I knew my family. I knew the moment they found out about the money, about the property, about everything that came with owning one of the most beautiful estates in Napa Valley, everything would change. And I was right. The proof had arrived today in the form of a canceled birthday. I picked up my laptop and started writing a list. If I was going to do this, I would do it right. My 54th birthday would be unforgettable, not just for me, but for everyone who had decided that Carol Ann Richmond wasn't worth the trouble. The first call would be to James, the estate manager, the second to the Michelin-starred chef. I had some favors to collect. Leo was right when he once told me that grandmothers keep the best secrets. What he didn't know was that his grandmother kept secrets that could buy castles. My phone rang. Madison. Mom, I just wanted to make sure everything is okay between us. Perfectly fine, sweetie. In fact, I'm very excited about my birthday. It's going to be spectacular. She didn't know how close to the truth she was. The next day, I called Madison for lunch. We met at our favorite restaurant, a little family place near the historic district where we used to go when she was a teenager and told me about her boy troubles. But today, the troubles were different. Mom, I wanted to explain the birthday thing better, Madison began as she picked at her salad. It's not that we don't want to celebrate you, it's just that… Madison, I interrupted her gently. I already told you I understand. Nana Eleanor is important to your husband. It's normal that you prioritize her celebration. My daughter looked at me with that expression of relief mixed with surprise I had seen so many times over the years. Carol Ann the understanding, Carol Ann the one who always says yes, Carol Ann the one who never causes problems. If she only knew, I thought as I sipped my coffee. But I continued. I'm celebrating my birthday too. In fact, I'm going to do something special this year. Oh, really? What do you have planned? It's a surprise, but I promise it will be memorable. Madison smiled, clearly reassured that her mother wouldn't cause a drama over being relegated to second place. I'm glad to hear that, Mom. Are you inviting the neighbors? The ladies from the book club? I almost laughed out loud. The neighbors. The book club. As if Carol Ann Richmond was a typical grandma whose idea of a wild celebration was serving sweet tea and finger sandwiches on the patio. Something like that, I said, stifling a smile. That afternoon, when I got home, I found an envelope that had been slipped under my door. It was from James, with updated photos of the estate. The renovations in the East Wing had just finished, and the place looked more spectacular than ever. There was also a note. Mrs. Richmond, the Michelin chef, has confirmed. The rooms are ready. I just need to know how many special guests we should expect. Special guests. James had always been discreet about my connections. You see, when you inherit a $7 million estate in one of the most exclusive regions of the U.S., you don't just inherit the property. You inherit a social circle that includes people who appear on the covers of international magazines. Aunt Vivian had been very popular among the global elite. I had maintained those friendships for 8 years, discreetly visiting the estate twice a year, building relationships that Madison never imagined existed. I picked up my phone and dialed the number of Ava Bellwether, the American film director who had won an Oscar last year and had become a good friend during my stays at the estate. Carol Ann, what a surprise. How are you, darling? Ava, darling, I have a proposition for you. How about you come to my birthday? At the estate, of course. The 15th? Perfect. We just finished shooting and I need a vacation. Is it going to be intimate? Relatively. Just a few special people. Oh, and my family is coming too. It's going to be interesting. Ava laughed. I love family drama. Do you need me to bring anything? Just your presence, and maybe. I paused, feeling this sweet anticipation of revenge. Maybe you could bring Jake. Not my grandson, the actor Jake Olsen. The one who just signed with Hollywood. The one everyone considers the new George Clooney. That's the one. Carol Ann, you are wicked. I love it. Count us in. When I hung up, I stared at the photos of the estate for a long time. In 1 week, my family would meet the real Carol Ann Richmond, and something told me they would never again prioritize someone else's birthday over mine. On Wednesday morning, as I was drinking my coffee on the patio, my phone rang. It was Ryan. Carol Ann, good morning. Sorry to bother you so early. No bother, Ryan. What do you need? Well, he hesitated. Here comes something, I thought. It's about Nana's birthday gift. Madison and I wanted to ask if you could help us with something. Ah, sure. First, they canceled my birthday. Now they want me to fund the mother-in-laws. The irony was delicious. What kind of help? There's a jewelry store in New York that has a necklace Nana would love. It's a little pricey. How much is a little pricey, Ryan? $3,000. I choked on my coffee. Not because of the amount, but because of the audacity. I see, and you can't afford it? We're a little tight with the mortgage and Leo's expenses. We thought maybe you could help us and we'd pay you back slowly. Of course you would. Carol Ann, the eternal financial lifeline of the family. Carol Ann, the one who always has money saved for others' emergencies. Ryan, let me ask you something. How much do you think my birthday gift is worth? There was an uncomfortable silence. Carol Ann, I didn't know you expected a specific gift. I don't expect anything specific. I'm just curious. If Nana deserves a $3,000 necklace, how much do you think I deserve? Well, that's different. You're family. You don't need to be. I don't need what, Ryan? Proof that you value me? Gestures that show I'm important to you? The silence on the other end of the phone was so long I thought the call had been cut off. Carol Ann, I didn't mean to say, relax, Ryan. I understand perfectly what you meant, and I'm going to help you with Nana's necklace. Seriously. Carol Ann, you're incredible. But I interrupted him. I want you to know this is my last financial gift to this family. After this, Carol Ann, the ATM is retiring from the business. When I hung up, I immediately dialed the number of my private bank in Switzerland. Yes, I have a private bank in Switzerland. Another little thing, Madison doesn't know about her dear mother. Mrs. Richmond, how can we assist you? I need to transfer $3,000 to an account in the US, and then I want to discuss some investment arrangements for my party on the 15th. Of course. For the celebration at the Richmond estate? Exactly. That afternoon, while strolling through downtown Charleston, I stopped in front of a high-end boutique I'd never had the nerve to enter. But today was different. Today was the day Carol Ann Richmond began to live like the woman she truly was. 2 hours later, I walked out with 3 dresses that cost more than my family spent on clothes in a year. But the dress for my birthday, that one was special. Golden, elegant, the kind a woman wears when she knows all eyes will be on her. Because soon, very soon, all eyes were going to be on me. On Friday, 5 days before my birthday, Madison showed up at my house unannounced. I found her in the kitchen, checking the refrigerator as she used to do when she was a teenager. Mom, can we talk? Sure, sit down. Want some coffee? Yes, thanks. She looked nervous, fiddling with her car keys. I've been thinking about what we discussed, about your birthday. What about my birthday? Well, Ryan told me you asked him about the value of your gift. Ah, Ryan ran and told his wife everything. How predictable. I was just curious, Madison. Don't worry about it. But I do worry. She stood up and started pacing the kitchen. Mom, I feel like we're growing distant, and I don't want that. Now she cares. Now that she realized she might have hurt my feelings. The maternal guilt surfaces, very convenient. We're not distant, sweetie. We're simply in different stages of our lives. You have your priorities, and I'm discovering mine. What do you mean by that? I sat down across from her, choosing my words carefully. Madison, what do you really know about me? Beyond being your mother, who do you think I am? The question took her by surprise. You're my mom. You're a widow. You live here in Charleston. You like to cook and read. And, and, and you're always there when we need you. Always there when they need me. Like a reliable appliance. Like an extension of their lives that they only noticed when it didn't work properly. Have you ever wondered what I do when you don't need me? Madison blinked, clearly confused by the question. No, not really, I guess. Normal grandma stuff? I laughed softly. Normal grandma stuff, interesting perspective. Mom, are you okay? You're acting different. I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I've never been better. I leaned forward with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Madison, I'm going to give you a piece of advice I hope you remember forever. Never assume you completely know the people you love, especially the ones you take for granted. What do you mean by that? You'll find out soon, sweetie. January 15th to be exact. She left that afternoon more confused than she had arrived, and I stayed in my house with a smile I couldn't wipe off my face, finalizing the last preparations for the biggest reveal of my life. James had called that morning. Mrs. Richmond, all your guests have confirmed it's going to be spectacular. Ava had sent photos of her dress for the event, an exclusive design that had cost more than Madison's car. And Jake Olson? Well, Jake Olson had confirmed he would arrive in his private jet directly to the estate's small private airstrip. Because you see, the Richmond estate wasn't just a pretty house in Napa Valley. It was a property with its own airstrip, its own vineyard, and its own history of having hosted some of the most famous names in the world over the last 50 years. And in 3 days, it would be the setting for the most elegant birthday party Napa had seen in years. My family had no idea what awaited them. On Saturday, 2 days before my birthday, I received an unexpected call. It was Eleanor, my dear mother-in-law. Carol Ann, darling, how are you? Eleanor had always been cordial, but we had never had a particularly close relationship. We spoke on special occasions and during family visits, but this call was unusual. Fine, Eleanor. How are the preparations for your birthday going? Oh yes, the preparations. Her voice sounded strange, almost shy. Carol Ann, I need to talk to you about something. Could we meet? I'm in Charleston for a few days, staying at the hotel. Interesting. Nana had arrived earlier than planned and wanted to see me. This wasn't on my list of expected events. Of course. Do you want to come here? Or should we meet somewhere? I'd prefer to come to your house if you don't mind. It's private. An hour later, Eleanor was sitting in my living room, her hands nervous and an expression I'd never seen on her face before. She looked vulnerable, almost fragile. Carol Ann, I must confess something. Here comes something big. I poured myself a glass of wine and prepared for anything. Tell me, Eleanor. I didn't want a big celebration for my birthday. It was Ryan's idea. He insisted that the whole family come from New York on having a big party. I stayed silent, processing this information. And why didn't you tell him no? Because... She sighed deeply. Because Ryan told me that you had canceled your birthday so that we could have mine. He told me you had insisted that my celebration be more important. The world stopped for a moment. That son of a... Eleanor, I said carefully. That's not exactly what happened. I knew it. Her eyes welled up with tears. I knew something wasn't right. Carol Ann, you would never voluntarily cancel your birthday. I know you well enough to know that. Nana knew me better than my own daughter. The irony was bitter. So what really happened? She asked. I told her the whole story. The conversation in the kitchen, Madison's declaration, the way they assumed I would simply accept being relegated to second place. Eleanor listened in silence, and when I finished, her fists were clenched. Those rude children, how dare they? Eleanor. No, Carol Ann. This is wrong, very wrong. I'm going to cancel my party. I'm going to tell the whole family to come for your birthday instead. No, I said firmly, don't do that. Why not? I stood up, walked over to her, and took her hands. Because I already have plans for my birthday. Plans that are going to teach this family something very important about underestimating Carolyn Richmond. I looked into her eyes and saw a flash of curiosity and something that looked like respect. What kind of plans? The kind of plans that require a very elegant dress and an open mind for surprises. Eleanor smiled for the first time since she had arrived. Carol Ann, darling, I think there's a lot more to you than my family knows. Exactly. And on Tuesday the 15th, they are going to meet the real Carol Ann. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you going to completely destroy them or just educate them? I laughed out loud. Eleanor, I think you and I are going to get along very well from now on. When she left that afternoon, I was left with a strange feeling. Of all the people in my family, the one I least expected to understand me had turned out to be my only real ally. And now I had a partner who perfectly understood the art of elegant revenge. On Sunday night, the eve of my birthday, I finally couldn't contain myself anymore. I called Madison. Mom, how are you? Are you ready for your special day tomorrow? Your special day, as if I were a little girl waiting for a slumber party. Very ready, Madison. In fact, I wanted to formally invite you. Invite me? But Mom, you know we have the final preparations for Nana tomorrow. Madison, I interrupted gently. It's not an optional invitation. It's a mandatory invitation. There was a pause. What do you mean? I mean, I want you, Ryan, and Leo at my birthday. No excuses, no other commitments, nothing more important to do. Mom, we can't. I already explained that. Did you know that your mother-in-law didn't want a big celebration? Total silence on the other end of the phone. What? Eleanor came to see me yesterday. She told me that Ryan told her I had canceled my birthday to prioritize hers. Does that version of events sound familiar? I could hear Madison breathing quickly. Mom, Madison, for 28 years, I have been your mother. I've been there for every scraped knee, every broken heart, every adult life crisis. And the first time I ask you for something specific, you tell me there's something more important. It's not that you're less important. No? Then come to my birthday tomorrow. Show me that I'm important. Where is it going to be? That, I said with a smile she couldn't see, is a surprise. I'll send you the address by text. Arrive at 7 p.m. Dress elegantly. Elegantly? Mom, what are you planning? Something memorable, sweetie. Something very, very memorable. When I hung up, I immediately called James. Mrs. Richmond, everything is ready. The estate is spectacular. The Michelin-starred chef arrived this morning, and your guests will begin arriving at 5. Perfect. And the photographer? Confirmed. Professional, discreet, and instructed to capture every important moment. Excellent, James. After tomorrow, nothing will be the same. I know, ma'am. And if I may say so, it's time your family knew who you really are. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, but from pure anticipation. For 8 years, I had lived a double life. Carol Ann, the single mother in Charleston, and Carol Ann, the secret heiress of a global fortune. Tomorrow, those two lives would finally meet, and my family would never again take Carol Ann Richmond for granted. My birthday dawned perfect. Blue sky, golden sun, and a sense of destiny that filled me with energy. By 3 in the afternoon, I was at the Richmond estate, supervising the final details. The place looked like something out of an international architecture magazine. The fresh flowers had arrived from New York that morning. The tables were set with designer crystal, and the Napa Valley view stretched endlessly under the afternoon sun. Mrs. Richmond, James approached with a smile, the first car has just arrived. It was Ava Bellwether, radiant in a custom gown, stepping out of a red sports car that probably cost more than Madison's house. Carol Ann, you look gorgeous, she yelled as she walked up the estate's main staircase. Ava, darling, thank you for coming. Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss this for anything. Has your family arrived yet? They'll be here at 7. I wanted my friends to arrive first. Over the next hour, the Richmond estate filled with guests who would make any paparazzi swoon with excitement. Jake Olson arrived in his private jet, followed by Senator Amelia Vance, yes, a real-life senator's wife, the designer Sebastian Clark, and 8 other names that regularly appeared in the society pages. By 6:30, I was dressed in my golden creation, jewelry that belonged to Aunt Vivian, and a confidence I hadn't felt in years. Carol Ann, Jake Olson approached with a glass of $100 champagne. You have to tell me about this family who's going to learn your secret tonight. Oh, Jake, it's going to be educational. At 7:05, I saw a small SUV pulling up the private road to the estate. My heart started beating faster. After 8 years of secrets, the moment had finally arrived. James opened the estate's large main doors while I positioned myself on the main balcony overlooking the entrance. From there, I could perfectly see my family step out of the car. Ryan was the first out, his mouth open, looking at the estate. Then Madison, with the same look of absolute shock. And finally Leo, my grandson, his eyes wide as saucers. "Grandma," I heard him shout, "this is a castle." "It's not a castle, sweetie," I thought, smiling. "It's just the home of your multimillionaire grandma." James escorted them to the main entrance, and I walked down the staircase as if it were the final scene of a movie. "Welcome," I said when they reached the main hall, "and to the Richmond estate." Madison looked at me as if she had never seen me before in her life. "Mom, what is this place?" "It's my home, sweetie, one of them." And at that moment, as if choreographed, Ava appeared at my side. "Madison, meet Ava Bellwether, Oscar winner, film director, and one of my dear friends." Madison opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water, but the best was yet to come. "Mom," Madison finally managed to speak, "I don't understand. Is this really your house?" "One of them," I repeated casually. "Would you like to meet the other guests?" I led them to the main lawn, where my birthday party was in full swing. You should have seen their faces when Jake Olsen walked up and kissed me on both cheeks. "Carol Ann, darling, happy birthday. Is this your beautiful family?" "Jake, meet my daughter Madison, her husband Ryan, and my grandson Leo." Ryan had turned pale. He recognized Jake Olsen immediately. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir," Ryan stammered. "The pleasure is mine. Carol Ann has told me so much about you." A white lie, but effective. "Come, Madison," I said, taking my daughter's arm. "I want you to meet Sebastian. He designs all my dresses for special events." Sebastian Clark, with his characteristic theatrical flair, took Madison's hand and examined her as if she were a piece of art. "Ah, yes, I see the resemblance. The same beautiful eyes as Carol Ann. Do you also have her natural elegance?" Madison looked at me as if I had grown a second head. "She didn't know that my mother—" "That your mother?" Sebastian asked. "That your mother is one of the most elegant women I know? That she has exquisite taste? That she knows how to live life as it should be lived?" Sebastian laughed. "Darling, your mother is a queen." For the next 2 hours, my family was passed from one famous guest to another. Senator Amelia Vance asked my grandson about school. The 3-star Michelin chef explained the wines we were serving to Ryan, each bottle over $500. And I watched everything from my spot at the main table, feeling a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. Around 9:30, as the sun began to set over Napa Valley, I called for everyone's attention. "Dear friends," I began with all eyes on me, "I want to thank you for being here tonight to celebrate my 54th birthday." Applause and shouts of "cheers" filled the air. But tonight is special for another reason. It's the first time my family is here, at the Richmond estate, getting to know this part of my life. I looked directly at Madison, who was sitting like a statue. "You see, for 8 years, I've kept this life private, not out of shame, but because—" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Because I wanted to see if my family valued me for who I am, not for what I have." Absolute silence fell over the table. "And today," I continued, "my daughter told me that her mother-in-law's birthday was more important than mine, that they were going to prioritize her celebration over mine." Madison turned beet red. Ryan sank into his chair. "So I decided it was time for them to meet the real Carol Ann Richmond, the Carol Ann who inherited this estate and a fortune from her aunt 8 years ago, the Carol Ann who has friends all over the world, the Carol Ann who will never again allow herself to be taken for granted." Jake Olsen began to applaud, and soon the entire table was giving me a standing ovation, except for my family, who remained seated in absolute shock. "Now," I said with my sweetest smile, "who wants more champagne?" The rest of the night passed like a surreal dream. My guests celebrated late into the night. The photographer captured hundreds of perfect moments, and I finally felt like the woman I truly was. My family, however, remained silent for most of the time, processing the revolution that had just occurred in their understanding of who I was. When we finally had time alone, around midnight, Madison and Ryan confronted me on the estate's main terrace. "Mom," Madison started, her voice trembling, "why did you never tell us?" "Why do you think, Madison?" "I don't know. I thought we were your family. I thought you trusted us. I sat on one of the terrace sofas, overlooking the lights of Napa Valley stretching to the horizon. Madison, how many times in the last 5 years have you asked me how I really am? What I want, what my dreams are? We always ask how you are. No. You ask if I'm okay, if I need anything, if I can help you with something. But you've never asked who I am beyond being your mother and grandmother. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Carol Ann, Ryan, 3 days ago, you asked me for $3,000 for your mother's necklace without even asking if I had $3,000 available. You just assumed Carol Ann always has money to help. But, Madison began, did you know I speak 5 languages? That I have a college degree in art history? That I never finished because I married young? That I write poetry? That I've been traveling to Napa and Europe twice a year for 8 years? The silence that followed was absolute. For 8 years, I continued, I've lived a double life. Carol Ann, the devoted mother in Charleston, and Carol Ann, the heiress in Napa. And you know what I found out? That the people here see me. They hear me. They value me for who I am. Madison began to cry softly. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know you felt invisible. I felt invisible in my own family. I stood up and walked over to my daughter. Madison, I love you more than words can express. But I'm no longer going to be convenient Carol Ann. I'm no longer going to be Carol Ann who always says yes. I'm going to be Carol Ann who lives her life to the fullest. What does that mean? It means I'm going to spend more time here in Napa. It means I'm going to pursue my own interests, and it means you're going to have to learn to value me before you need something from me. Ryan finally spoke. Carol Ann, we made a mistake. A huge mistake. Yes, you did. But mistakes can be corrected if there is a real willingness to change. That night, my family stayed at the Richmond estate. For the first time in years, we ate breakfast together on the main terrace, overlooking the Napa vineyards. And we talked. We really talked. Madison asked me about Aunt Vivian, about my life in Napa, about my friends. Ryan genuinely apologized for making assumptions about my financial situation. And Leo, my grandson, told me he thought I was the coolest grandma in the world. 2 weeks later, when we returned to Charleston, things had fundamentally changed. My family looked at me with new eyes. They asked me real questions. They included me in important decisions. And Nana Eleanor's birthday, which was finally celebrated the following week, was a shared celebration, where both she and I were the guests of honor. Because it turns out that when you stop being invisible, people finally learn to see you. And when people learn to see you, they never take you for granted again. In the end, I didn't need revenge. I just needed to show them who I really was. And now, for the first time in years, Carol Ann Richmond is living like the queen she was always meant to be. And the photos of my birthday, they went viral on social media when my famous guests shared them. Now everyone in Charleston knows that Mrs. Carol Ann from the neighborhood is actually one of the most connected women in the world. But most importantly, my family finally knows that they should never ever underestimate the power of a woman who has kept her secrets for 54 years. Because when that woman finally decides to reveal them, the world changes forever.